Like, Raptors fans have been clamoring for this team to make a move in the center position. Every time I put a poll up on the channel, I get surprised by the results saying, get a center. Center's the most important position to acquire. Trade Jakob Poeltl. It's strange, but hey, even though I don't agree with it, if the Raptors do go in that direction, one player they could sign to replace him, and perhaps they could be planning on signing to replace him, is in fact former Raptors player Jonas Valančiūnas. So let's talk about whether or not this move makes sense, what it would look like, if they should do it. This channel right here is Amateur Hour Clips, part of the Amateur Hour Production Network, where it continues to be all Raptors all the time. On this channel, we take the best segments from the live streams that we do over on the main channel, Amateur Hour Sports, and clip it into some bite-sized segments for you to enjoy. So, if you do enjoy along the way, make sure you do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as well to stay up to date on all the content we have coming your way. So, again, reiterating my stance, I personally do not feel as though a Jakob Poeltl trade is the right way to go for this team. But I've seen conversations online, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be in the community section of the Amateur Sports YouTube page, whether it be sometimes in live streams. People want to move on from Jakob Poeltl, and a conversation has centered around previously Jonas Valančiūnas. Of course, former Raptor, former lottery pick for the Raptors, 5th overall pick, had some good years with the Raptors, but ultimately was traded halfway through the championship season. I will forever say the Raptors do not win that NBA championship if they do not trade Jonas Valančiūnas. A little bit of a knock against JV, but Marc Gasol was the return in that trade. The Raptors could not have beaten the Philadelphia 76ers without Marc Gasol. They barely beat them with him. The Raptors could not, absolutely have not beaten the Milwaukee Bucks without Marc Gasol and his defense. He was an absolute necessity towards winning that NBA championship. But the current situation for the Raptors, do they need a center? If they do, could it be Jonas Valančiūnas? The idea for this was sparked by a Toronto Star article asking if the Raptors should bring back Jonas Valančiūnas. I went to go read the article, but there's a paywall. So I decided, hey, I'll just take the idea and do it myself. So JV coming off of a decent stint with the New Orleans Pelicans where he started to turn some heads with the shooting and doing so on a not very big contract here. Just made $15.5 million last season at 32 years old. He's probably looking for a 2 or 3 year deal if he can, where, how much is he going to be making here? What's the next contract? Honestly, for JV, it's going to be cheaper likely than the $19.5 million that Jakob Poeltl is making. JV produced some pretty good statistics in his time with the New Orleans Pelicans. His role dropped a little bit on a year-to-year basis, but what has fans discussing him a bit more in the Raptors space is the fact that he's shooting the three ball a little bit more than he was in his time with Toronto, especially in the early stage of his Toronto career where he never shot the three ball. Went from 18 points per game a couple of years ago with the Pelicans. This most recent season, 12 points per game. So the minutes decrease a little bit, but fine-tuning the role potentially for the player, especially at his current age. Is this the right move for the Raptors to go in this position? Well, here's the thing about Jonas Valančiūnas. This is what kind of annoys me. His three-point numbers, 36%, 36%, 35%, 30%. By the way, dropped to 30% this season. He takes 1.5 three-point attempts per game. Like, even in his final full season with the Raptors, he shot one a game, and in his the one before that, he shot 40% from three on one attempt per game. Like, he's been shooting for a while, but it's super low volume. It's this season at least it wasn't efficient, and when it comes to shooting, like, yes, percentages are good for shooting, but also when it comes to shooting, are players guarding you there? So for JV, that's not the case. Like, they'll let JV shoot. They'll let him have that. He'll take, 1 or 2 a game, but he doesn't shoot the ball that often, and he's not a big threat from the outside and not a big threat for gravity or floor spacing. And on top of that for JV, I don't want to be super rude, but he kind of fits into the what does he do category. He can score on the inside. Yeah. Not a great passer. is, okay, he's a good rebounder. I'll give him that. He's a great rebounder. He's a great rebounder. Great rebounder, uses his size well, but defensively, every year, the Pelicans go deep, and they can't use him. If the Pelicans get to the play-in tournament, they get to the playoffs, they can't use him anymore. He just gets completely overrun in big game playoff situations. So in the biggest moments, you can't have him on the floor. Now, granted, for the Raptors, you don't have Poeltl necessarily on the floor all the time in the biggest moments. Maybe it depends on the matchup, but I don't think there's any need here for the Raptors to go out of their way to bring in a player who doesn't change things for the Raptors. He gets cooked on defense, I agree. Jakob Poeltl is by far the superior defender. Jakob Poeltl is by far the superior passer, the better pick and roll partner, the better rebounder, and doesn't really lack a ton in like the interior scoring department. Free throws are something people may cite as saying, well, at least JV can go to the line. You can have him on more for late game situations on offense, but there's just such a significant drop-off here defensively that this one just does not make sense for the Raptors. They really need to hone in on a rim protector here. They just struggle so much defensively, this team. And we saw how bad they were without Jakob Poeltl this season. That I don't know. I think the idea of having a different center is better than what it would actually look like in practicality here. Jakob Poeltl is 28 years old. People treat him like he's not on the same timeline as the rest of this core here. Like, Emmanuel Quickly's 25. Let me just check if he's a 99 or a 98. Because he is, okay, he's a 99. So, granted, he's 24. I'll give it. He's 4 years younger than Jakob Poeltl. RJ Barrett 5, Scottie Barnes 6. But it's not like Jakob Poeltl's this ancient figure. He's 28 years old. He's got 3 years left on his contract at $19.5 million. That's a great contract. That's a great contract for a starting caliber center. He's a great defender. I don't think he's completely off of a timeline of development here. Not everybody needs to be under 24 years old for this thing to work. He fits really well with this team. And I think above all, he wants to be here. He likes being here. He said it specifically that he wants to be involved with this team. He said specifically he doesn't mind being on a team that's trying to win. He doesn't mind being in this specific situation with the Raptors because they still want to go into a season, try to compete and try to win. So with all that said, JV, I just do not see the appeal of bringing a player like Jonas Valančiūnas into the team. And honestly, I think JV, with all due respect, I really feel as though JV is going to struggle to find another starting spot in the league. So often the New Orleans Pelicans have to go to Larry Nance at center, and Larry Nance is a good player, but the fact that you have to do that with your starting center, it's just not something the Raptors should take on. It's not the type of headache the Raptors need to get themselves involved in. So for that reason, JV, no, it doesn't make sense to me. The conversations then shift towards Nick Claxton. That's a different conversation, but he's going to be a whole lot more expensive, and you still need to figure out a way to get rid of Jakob Poeltl. And I say get rid of as he's dead weight. He's a very good player. I really like Claxton, but is that jump in salary necessary for Claxton? How much more does he bring? I don't think he brings enough more to say that it's worth investing that additional fund of the salary cap in towards getting him. Not to mention, again, having to find a way to move on from Jakob Poeltl and maximize the value of that situation. Again, it just doesn't make sense. And none of that makes sense. The Raptors better off just keeping Poeltl, especially if it's JV coming the other way.